Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Yuri here once again with you. I am joined by Mark Savant today. And this is going to be a great conversation because we're going to be talking a bit about someone who has really perfected kind of what we're doing right here, this video podcast. And Mark is the guy who a lot of people turn to when they want to really perfect the art of video podcasting. And not only does he do that, but he's also the guy a lot of people come to when they're looking to turn their side hustle into more of a full-time gig. But obviously, he has a very big affinity for video podcasting. So, Mark, welcome to the Healthpreneur Show.
Yuri, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. So let's talk about why did you get into video podcasting? Like, why did that stick for you?
Well, it's been a journey. It's been a journey, Yuri, to say the least. And I think all the coaches out there can appreciate that. I started out working kind of like a corporate style job, working in an insurance agency, managing day-to-day operations. But I realized that I needed something more. I didn't feel content. I didn't feel satisfied. I remember one day going out to dinner with my wife and I got into an argument with the server for no reason in particular, just got into a fight with her. And as we're sitting in the car, my wife was like, wow, you're being a real jerk to that person. I was like, yeah, you know what? I was, but why? Why am I unleashing this anger and this frustration on everyone around me? And I realized it was because I wasn't happy myself. I wasn't satisfied, right? I was waking up, everything looks great on the outside, but on the inside, I wasn't happy or satisfied. And so I started this journey of trying lots of different projects, side hustles. And what I really fell in love with, Yuri, was what we're doing right now. Communicating, building network, building authority, building attention. And I found that video podcasting is, to me, the biggest opportunity that we have right now in 2021. It's just wide open. It's just an amazing opportunity to build your network, grow attention and authority.
That's awesome. So why video versus just audio podcasting?
So that's a great question. I think a lot of people, when they think podcast and they think I'm going to go into iTunes, I'm just going to listen. And that's where I started. I started out with solely audio, but I ended up transitioning to video for a couple different reasons. A, it's a really powerful way to differentiate yourself. You know, when a lot of the podcasters that have been doing it a long time are all audio, it's going to be hard to compete with them. So I need to find a way to differentiate myself. A. B, I wanted to make as much use of my time as possible, right? And when you're only getting audio, how many people are actually going to be listening or watching a little waveform or audiogram on Instagram? You're not really going to do that. But what I found was that I can turn a 30-minute video interview into hours of content, dozens of pieces of content. So what I've really been working on is bringing on a team, developing systems and automations and processes to make sure that I can do a 30-minute video interview just like we're doing right now. And then my team can chop it up into clips for LinkedIn, for Instagram, for Facebook, for TikTok. We take the audio and we distribute that across iTunes and Google Play and Spotify. And then we can even take images and we can create memes and we can take all the show notes and create SEO for a website. So you can kind of see that you can take a 30-minute video interview and you can just make a lot of use out of your time. You can just be extremely thoughtful and valuable with the moments you spend.
You use the whole pig.
Right. But that's it. We use that's exactly right.
Yeah. And it's true though, because it's very tough to go the other way around. It's like you can't go from audio to video with less work. Like you have to then shoot the video on top of the audio, or to go from written to video, it's double the work. So it just makes the most sense to kind of like waterfall it from the video because it has the most leverage, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And there are additional difficulties to implementing video, right? When you're on all audio, you can sit there like combing through your notes. You don't have to look into the lens of the camera. You don't have to worry about lighting. You can do it on the fly. You can do it on the run. Sometimes, right from your phone, you can record. So there's different levels of complexity to video, but I think that the added benefit, like we talked about, using the whole pig is, to me, the biggest selling point there.
Yeah, totally. For sure. So you mentioned, I think I saw this on your website. You talked about how typical kind of 9-to-5 job, you were dreading Mondays, looking forward to the weekends. And then you started in this journey, but what did that, I'm sure it wasn't easy. What did that transition look like for you? And what was the first thing that you did in that transition to starting to build your dream instead of someone else's?
Right. So we're still a work in progress, right? It's still a work in progress, just trying to get a little bit better each day. But I think the key here, Yuri, is we're going through this massive shift from a business and professional standpoint. I mean, you see this every day with the way that media is being sent out. There's new technologies. Everyone's on their phone. Less people are using laptops now. So we're just seeing all these what I would consider revolutions in the way that we communicate happening. And I said, hey, can I afford? I'm 35 years old. Can I afford to keep doing the same thing that I've been doing? Where is my life? What is my life going to look like in 10 years, in 20 years? Am I, where am I going to be? And I didn't like where I was headed. Um, so I started trying new things. I knew I wanted to do something that was going to allow me to build systems so that I can bring on people, I can automate and try to scale. I knew I wanted to use new technology. And again, I tried different things. I looked at opening up my own insurance agency, different types of franchising opportunities. I worked on Amazon, fulfillment by Amazon, Amazon FBA, Shopify. I tried all these different, like drop shipping. I tried all these different like little ideas, a few dozen more. But when I started having conversations with people in video podcasting, A, I realized that I enjoyed it. And B, I kind of recognized very quickly that, again, you're able to build your network. I found that it's success in this life, I think, is not so much what you know, but who you know, right? And the connections that you're able to build, provide value. It gave me like I've been able to get access to NFL players in my local area, presidential candidates, some of the top performing entrepreneurs like, Pat Flynn, David Meltzer, yourself. And I'm starting to get, all these connections, and it to me, it kind of spirals, and I don't know how much longer video podcasting is going to be a great opportunity, but I think that right now, if you take action, you're building your network, you're learning these processes, you have a real opportunity to stand out on some of these social platforms, which we could get tactical on if you like. But
Yeah, and that's it's a great point too. And the other thing that I think is you talked about, like your net worth is your network, really. It's like who
yeah,
you know. I've always found podcasting as a really, just think about, when do you have the opportunity to spend 30, 60 minutes with someone and just kind of shoot the breeze and talk about stuff? Like for people that are, maybe a little bit further along in business, not everyone has that access. But I want to add some value to your life by having you on a podcast type of approach, now you can actually start a relationship with someone in this format. And I don't think most people recognize how powerful it is, right?
it's access to free coaching too. You can bring on someone that's 5 years ahead of you, ask them very specific and tactical questions about your business. Normally you might be paying them thousands of dollars, but now you're able to level up more quickly because you have value to give that other person. Okay, you can come on my show, I'll introduce you to new people, exposure, and it's very powerful. It's a very, very powerful tool to getting access to people you wouldn't normally have access to.
Yeah, 100%. So when you're trying all these different things, Shopify, FBA, all this stuff, what is that dialogue going on in your mind to say like this is just not feeling right? Or like, how did you know when you found this? And how is it different than all the other things that you had seen people tell you to do or that you tried on your own?
Well, it's a process, it's a journey. And I think that, we constantly got to be trying new things, but the answer, Yuri, is it's tough. It's difficult. It's because we get sold this lie right now on social media, on YouTube, that it's easy to build an online business, right? That, you just build it and people will come. And, it's just being sold all the time. If you type in how to make money online on YouTube, you're going to get sold this dream time and time and time again, and so for me, there's this conflict of there's all these people that are making money so quickly and so easily. But the reality is building a legitimate business, turning a side hustle into a full-time income is not going to happen overnight. Most businesses don't even make it 3 years, right? So it's trying to leverage that. Hey, does this path lead me to a life that I enjoy? Is there a path to money? Because some of those jobs, they had the path to money, but I realized that I wasn't going to be happy doing that, right? Because it was an old school type of business, or it was going to take too much manual handling, too much cold calling, that sort of thing. being true to yourself, listening to others, continuously trying new things. But I think to me, the biggest challenge when you're trying to build a legitimate side hustle, Yuri, is recognizing if the money is going to be there in the future, if it's not there now, right? Because it's going to take you a while to build up that momentum, build up that income. And just trying to recognize, is there going to be enough income? How patient can I be? How patient can I afford to be? Money's going out the back door. Am I bringing enough in the front door? When am I going to be able to get that return on my time investment? That's a very difficult thing to quantify. And so for me, it's just about, hey, I'm going to keep trying different things. What's giving me the vision? What do I enjoy? And what's going to allow me to build these different streams of income? Because I think when you're building a side hustle or a coaching business, you don't want to focus on one source of income. You want to focus on a dozen sources of income. So if something falls off, you have something to lean back on. So those were some of the things that I was looking at when trying to build my business.
And for you personally, like, how did you move through some of those challenging times, those periods of uncertainty where, like, man, is this working? But like, you still had that pull inside of you. Like, what did that internal process look like for you? How did you keep yourself going in challenging times?
Yeah. So I think when you're starting a business, assuming you're not spending tens of thousands of dollars on leasing and reno, and, assuming, let's say you're starting an online coaching business, right? I think that you really want to focus on a long-term, right? So when I started my video podcast, my first show, which is all about fatherhood, the Awesome Dad Show, it's still in syndication. When I started my first show, I said, hey, I'm not going to worry about monetization. I'm not going to worry about the number of downloads. I'm just going to worry about, I'm going to post a video once a week, or an audio. At that time, it was all audio, one audio once a week for a year. And then after 1 year, I'm going to see where I'm at. Okay. So I put on this timeline, and to create a video show or a podcast doesn't take a lot of money. You can spend a lot of money if you want to go faster, but it doesn't take a lot of money to start. So I started that. And after a year, I took an assessment of where I was at. I was like, I enjoyed the process. I like what I'm doing. But what I recognized, Yuri, is that the majority of my income coming in had nothing to do with fatherhood or that show in itself. It was people asking me, hey, Mark, how are you growing your Instagram? Mark, how are you growing your YouTube? My YouTube channel now had just hit 450,000 views, right? And so I started seeing these breadcrumbs of, okay, this is where the money's coming in from. I think I'm going to lean more heavily in that direction. So it's recognizing that, but you could probably attest to this, Yuri. One of the, I think the biggest challenges when building the side hustle is getting constructive criticism from people, because I find that people either don't believe in what you're doing and they're like, you're wasting your time. And this could be people that are really close to you. Or people just won't give you any good feedback. Like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's nice.
And especially if you're coming from a corporate background where maybe more of your network is in that space, you're like, what about, what if it doesn't work out? What about the benefits? What about this? What about that? Right. And you're like, you guys don't get it. You don't get it. But it's challenging for sure. And so did you start to surround yourself with different people as you're making this transition, or did you find that to be a challenge?
Well, yes, and yes. It's been a challenge. It's still a challenge. And I think in the days of COVID, it's really easy to feel isolated as well, because the people that you used to go out and hang out with, maybe you can't, right? Because for whatever reason you can't, or it's not safe. So that's a hard thing too. But I think what you find is that when you get out there and you start putting yourself out there, people are going to be attracted to that, and you're going to attract the right type of people. There's going to be some of the wrong type of people too, but you're going to attract the right type of people. But I think as long as you enjoy the process, you're constantly challenging yourself and putting yourself out there, things will happen. And again, that's why I think video podcasting is such a great opportunity, because you will absolutely attract the right type of people. Your DM, I get dozens of DMs every day, emails, like it's amazing what happens when you put yourself out there. And it's kind of funny. I was talking to another podcaster the other day, and they say, none of my friends and family believe me. They don't think that I'm doing anything. All my support comes from strangers. Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting how that happens when you have a vision, you put yourself out there.
Yeah, I don't think most people understand what it's like, or what even having a business online is. They're probably like, my son's probably got this like radio show or something. I don't even know. He's like, selling some things on Amazon. I don't think most people understand what an online business means or what they can do or what we can do with the internet, which is, it's kind of funny. I feel like I'm living in the Matrix sometimes, but
Well, we're living in a really interesting time. I'm 30. I just turned 38 a couple of days ago. And growing up, none of the type of businesses that you see now were a thing, right? Like if you wanted to reach people, you're either on the radio or you're on TV. Now, like radio and TV are, I mean, in 10 years, people might not even be using them at all. You know, it's all going to be streaming services and video podcasts and audio podcasts and like, but you know, so we're kind of caught in this weird era, right? Where the previous generation doesn't understand what's going on at all, what's coming new. And the young generation, they don't understand how far things have come over the past 10 years, right? So we're kind of getting this interesting, we kind of had the best of both worlds, I think, right? Where we can kind of see the opportunities that we have now, but just my kid is not going to know what life was like before cell phones.
I know. I had a conversation with mine the other day. I'm like, do you know that we actually never had cell phones when I was your age? And he's like, really? What did you guys do? It's like, well, we kind of had these bricks that were on the wall.
Right.
We could talk.
We had payphones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We had, I remember growing up when we go on a road trip, we would have these huge maps, these atlases.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have Google Maps, you know? So I think I think that puts us at an advantage being this kind of this middle-aged millennial type of age where we've kind of understand what we have. And at least me, I don't take it for granted. The ability to post a video and reach thousands and thousands and thousands of people is just, cannot take it for granted. And it's not always going to be here. Now's the time.
Totally. I mean, the good old days are now. Like there hasn't been a better time than there is now. It's amazing. With that said, on the flip side, how do you manage the distractions, the shiny objects, comparison syndrome, if that affects you at all? How do you navigate, you know, right now with everything that we're all, you know, faced with?
Super tough. And I think that any coach that's up and coming, or even has already come up, if they tell you anything different, they're likely lying to you. It is really hard when you log on and you see someone that maybe hasn't been doing something as long as you, but they're having great success, or you see someone that you met, like there's some people I bet on LinkedIn who that's all they do. They're on LinkedIn all day, which is a great platform, by the way. You guys got to check out LinkedIn if you're not there yet. But you know, I see people that I've met there and they had 5,000 followers. Now they have 70,000 followers. And you're like, wow, they're so lucky. Da, da, da. But you got to fight. You can't compare yourself to everyone else today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, you know? And that to me is another challenge. Like as a coach, as a online business owner, founder, right? You wear so many different hats. You're doing so many different things. And it can be really exhausting. There will be days I wake up and I'm looking at my to-do list for the day. I'm like, okay, so I've got to do finances. I got to do taxes. I've got to get my team on the right page. I have 3 interviews. I need to do editing. You're like, how am I going to get all this done? I feel overwhelmed. And it almost makes you want to do nothing, you know?
Yep.
But I think that you take little chunks. Don't get so overwhelmed with all the big picture stuff. Just focus on, hey, how can I be a little bit better than I was yesterday? And it kind of accelerates. Because I don't know if you have this problem as well, Yuri, but I have this kind of like, one of my biggest challenges is I feel like I need to go faster. I feel like I just like patience is a problem for me, you know? And so, you know, I kind of struggle with how can I make things go faster, but still make sure and then I'm doing the small things right. You know, and that's a real challenge for me. It can be almost lonely or difficult, I think, as a solopreneur, entrepreneur, healthpreneur, where you're trying to build something and you want to go fast. You want to quit your day job. You want to go full time on what you really love to do. And it doesn't happen immediately. You're like, you start to question yourself. And I think that's normal. I think that's natural.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I don't know if there's any entrepreneurs that I know of who don't want things to move faster. Like we all have this like impatience and it's challenging. Like, so my light just fell off. Interesting. Yeah. So we all have this challenge of, you know, how do we have faith in the process, but at the same time, like really move it forward as quickly as possible. And I think, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's an answer to that.
I think
I've found at least.
I try to put most of my focus, not so much on making money, but on serving others and putting good systems in place.
Yep.
You know, at least that's for me. I mean, there's some people that work the opposite way around, they just want to, they're just sales all the time. That, for me, that's not really my mentality. My mentality is more create, and help put these systems in place. And then the rest kind of falls into place naturally, at least for me. And I know that once I started bringing on team members and helping them, and, that's kind of empowering in a way too.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of people, when they start thinking about team or delegation, they have a challenging time relinquishing control, right? Like, what if this person doesn't do as good a job as me? What if they mess it up? Did you deal with that at all? Or how did you start building that team? Like, were you okay relinquishing control, or was that something you had to really deal with resistance wise?
Well, so I think it's, especially when you're hiring your first team member, your first virtual assistant, yes, you're going to have a hard time giving up control. But I think that you'll find that people surprise you. People will surprise you. And sometimes people will even do things better than you can do them, relinquishing control it can be difficult, but you got to look at yourself. You got to look at your business. If you're not automating processes, if you're not outsourcing, there's no way you're going to be able to achieve that vision in your mind. You absolutely have to. You have to start outsourcing stuff. And that's one of my biggest goals for this year, is to outsource more. It's almost addictive in a way.
Totally. Because you're buying your freedom back, right? You're buying your time back.
That's exactly it. It's addictive. Out of all the things that in my life, it's so addictive to say, okay, here's a process. How can I offload this to someone else for a reasonable cost? And what am I going to do with that time that I bought back? And it is, once you start going down that road, doors are just going to start opening up like crazy, absolutely like crazy. And that's where the magic happens in your business, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And that's really how you can grow. Like, it's very tough to grow a business by yourself. And especially if you value free time, like freedom. You've got, how many kids do you have?
So I have two little ones, 4.5 and 1.5. Yeah.
I mean, you obviously want to be with them and be around, which is great.
That's probably the biggest challenge, I think, when you're trying to build your side business, especially in this phase of life, when you have so many responsibilities. I heard it put a really interesting way. When you're young, you have no money. You have all the time in the world, right? But you have no money and no like freedom, right? You can't do what you want to do. When you're in the middle of your age, you have money, you have freedom, but you have no time. And then when you're late in life, you have freedom, no time. You know what? I botched that. I can't remember exactly what it is. But yeah, in this phase of life, it's extremely difficult because you need to invest your time up front so that you can get the return on the back end. But then you're missing out on really, really special moments in your family's life. That's something I struggle with a lot.
It's a very common question for sure. And I think it's really important. Like, it's like you're building the foundation for the future, but without compromising the present.
Yes.
Like, and if you're at home and you've got your kids there, what a blessing, right? And this actually came up recently because there's a new platform called Clubhouse that you're probably familiar with. And one of my team members let me know about it last week. And I was like, let me check it out. Interesting. Okay, it's pretty cool. But I started to realize, like, for this to really work well, you got to be on that thing like 6 hours a day. I'm weighing the pros and cons in my head. I'm like, okay, do I really want to sacrifice the time I have with my kids after a work day to be completely distracted and clued into conversations from other people I don't even know, just to get more followers and likes and like play this whole game because of FOMO? And I think it's important to like just kind of keep the real, like the main thing. And it's very easy to be distracted by all sorts of stuff, right? Yeah. I think it's like, I've got 4 kids. It's a blessing to have kids because they keep you focused. If you had all the free time in the world, like, you'd be wasting most of it, right?
Well, so this is a tough thing, right? Because Clubhouse is very interesting to me right now because it's anytime a new social media app comes out, I think it's important to pay attention because, it's not saturated like you might find on Facebook or Instagram. Listen, guys, if you're, I hate it when I see coaches like, oh, I only focus on Facebook. Like, you are missing out on a lot of opportunity on some of these other apps. Clubhouse for me is very interesting because, like you said, you got to spend a lot of time there, but I think that if you can collaborate and team up with the right people, maybe people that are very active on the platform, it could be a really powerful place for you to share your knowledge with hundreds of people at the same time. Yeah. Really interesting platform. I have to borrow my daughter's iPad because I'm not an iPhone user right now, but I'm definitely going to be looking at Clubhouse. And I think the key is I don't want to be a master of Clubhouse. I don't have the time to do it, but I think it's a good place to collaborate. And to that point, I was talking to Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn joined my show a few weeks ago. And I asked him about this, like, how much time do you spend on what you know works versus trying new things? Because things are just changing so quickly. And he says every Friday, that's all he does. Friday is try new things day. And I thought that was a pretty interesting way of looking at it. You know, set aside some period of time in your week to try something new. You know, maybe you've never done a TikTok video. Okay, on Thursdays for an hour, I'm going to try that out. I'm going to try doing TikTok videos. So I think setting aside some time is a really good idea. Otherwise, you either get lost in these 6-hour time sinks, or B, you don't try out these new things at all.
That's really good advice. I think Google has something similar where they give their employees 20% of their week to do whatever they want, like experiment on new things. That's where Google AdSense came out of that. They had a couple other big platforms that came out of that whole experiment. So I think it's nice to be open-minded and try new things. It's really good.
Especially as an entrepreneur, like innovation is the thing. You never know when you're going to like strike pay dirt, And if you're not trying new things, you're never going to find out.
Yeah. And I mean, if anything, if we learned anything from 2020, it's like, you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
Like if you're like fixed in stone, you become a dinosaur pretty quickly. So no, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Mark, this has been really great. For our listeners and viewers who want to learn more about what you're doing, or where they can follow you online, what is the best place for them to do that?
You can find me all over the web, Mark Savant Media. Mark Savant Media, I'm all over the place. You can listen to the show, After Hours Entrepreneur, all over the place. And yeah, my goal is to help you reach as many people, build your network, and grow your authority as quickly as possible. And video podcasting right now, 2021 is the time. We don't know how long this ship is going to ride out for. There's some really interesting things happening in the industry. So yeah, Mark Savant Media, you can check me out.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for taking the time, Mark, for sharing a piece of your journey with us and a lot of your wisdom. I know this is going to be really well received by everyone watching and listening. Thank you so much once again. And thank you guys for tuning in.
Pleasure, Yuri.
Hey, did you enjoy this episode? If so, I've got a great free training to help you get more clients and grow your virtual health practice or your coaching business, however you like to define it. I may have alluded to this before. It's called the Perfect Client Pipeline, and it's our proprietary 4-step process that will help you predictably and consistently get clients literally on demand 24/7. Now, I know I make it sound easy. Obviously, it's not, but it is simple. And I want to show you how it all works. If you're a health expert or a practitioner who knows you can be doing more in your business and you just want a better way to reach more clients without the grind, and by the grind, I mean posting on social media all day long or creating content no one sees, I understand it's exhausting. So click the link in the description below. Let me show you exactly the Perfect Client Pipeline, how it all works, and how it's been responsible for generating more than $100 million for our clients who are health experts just like you. Click the link below, and I'll see you there.